All right, here we are, fellas. Welcome to Mint Map Spaces today. Jason, give me that mic check.
No can do, man. My mic doesn't work.
Oh, damn. So I'm doing that alone today?
I believe in you, my friend. No, everything's good. I can hear you. Life is good. The sun is shining, and hopefully, hopefully, everything is set up and ready to rock.
Perfect, man. It's funny because when you just mentioned that your mic doesn't work, I remember that back in time when we had the first Spaces, the very first one back then, um, X was actually rugging me and you had to do it on your own. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. That's like 30 episodes ago, huh? I guess
Yeah,
we've.
it's crazy. Whenever I
I guess
check the podcast, I see like all the episodes we have already. We've spoken so much, man.
I know, man. It's pretty wild, right? Amazing world we live in, right? Like you're I don't know how many thousands of miles away in Germany. I'm over here in Arizona, and I mean, we've probably spoken more than like best friends would in real life, and we've never met in real life, which is always kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, definitely. Fun fact is actually we've never even had like a FaceTime call or something.
Yeah, why is that?
I have no idea, man. I have no idea. I mean, I know how you look because I've seen you being on like some YouTube stuff, I think. But yeah, you're not even sure if I'm actually a real person or if I'm AI.
Yeah, I guess that's true, huh? But you said you're going to be visiting the States and later in the year, so who knows? Maybe we'll be able to see you in real life and take a real
Yeah,
life
man.
photo and
That
verify
that
that
would
you are indeed a real boy and not just an AI intelligence across the world.
yeah, definitely. Looking forward to that. Today is a little, I'd say more special than usual because we have a mint upcoming in like 8 minutes. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. The get capped drop. Maybe you want to lose some words about the different phases that we're going to have.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to that point where, we've basically fulfilled most of our obligations to the bosses. We have one more obligation to fulfill, which is the actual face art. And once we fulfilled that obligation to the bosses, like basically all of those promises are kept, which is awesome. It feels good to know that we've delivered when, so many people in the space haven't. And so that's kind of where we're at. So we're starting to incorporate different phases because we're now starting to think about expanding the brand, expanding the base, expanding the community. And there's a bunch of different ways we're looking at doing that. Paid ads is probably going to be the best way to do it. We don't want to do the fake influencer, bribe you on Discord, crap stuff, like just don't want to do that fake stuff. So it's probably going to result in direct response marketing, which I don't think anyone in this space is doing. And so we're going to have, phases for referrals, phases for like friends of friends, that sort of thing. But on this particular one, we've got the bosses who have the first 2 hours to mint, their pieces. And then it's token gated based on holding a token or holding a boss coin. And then the next phase is token gated based on if you have a referral NFT or not. And then the next phase is token gated based on whether or not you hold one of the pieces of the existing collection, which is really kind of cool because if you if you try to mint your collection all at once, you can't have that phase. So you can't actually reward existing holders without giving them different NFTs. So those are the three phases. And then, of course, if anything survives, it goes public and then it shuts down tonight at I think 6 or 8 if we don't, mint them out. So today we'll mint all the pieces, or either we'll mint as many pieces as people choose, and then the rest will go in treasury if there's anything unminted. Because remember, the goal is not to mint out, but to get quality artwork in the hands of quality holders. So we're very different in that way, and it flies in the face of sort of that traditional, Solana NFT ideology where you basically banking everything on whether or not you can mint out. That brings in the wrong people, and that's not who we want. That's failed 90+% of the time, and so why repeat it? So basically, that's where we're at, and that's why it's structured the way it's structured. So, I hope everyone enjoys the artwork. I basically every time one of these things goes out, every time we do a batch mint, you know, it's always nerve-wracking for me because I do the artwork. I do a great deal of artwork. I do a great deal of setup, a lot of data work, and I'm always worried that something's not going to work. It's like the night before, it's always anxiety and craziness, and like, oh shit, did I set that up right? Or, and then you've got 100 files in this case with 100 JSON files. Is the data correct? Did everything get uploaded correctly? Then is the mint page going to work? Is the network going to be fine? So there's like all this anxiety that goes into these days. So for me, like, the reward is just seeing people like love the pieces. So that's my whole goal, is to continue to put out quality, continue to bring in good people, and continue to see people enjoy the pieces and have fun with it. And so hopefully that's what today is, and we get to do just that.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think it's funny because you just mentioned that the last obligation we have is basically giving people the artwork with faces. And yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think last time I talked about the statistics, I've seen that, like 95% of projects do not fulfill their roadmaps. And, for us, it's almost time to create a version 2. So I'm pretty happy with the work we've done so far.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the truth is, like, there's so much that we've done, that we've sort of accomplished and done differently, and we've done it in the face of a lot of pressure to do it, the traditional way that's guaranteed failure. And to us, like, having the balls just to stand in the fire of our values is huge. And, to really focus on, bringing in one or two good people each month, continue to expand the brand that way. And then looking toward the summer with token mints, and then ultimately culminating in a, high-end artwork gallery. I mean, these are huge accomplishments, and to still be here after the truth, is that, after Art of Mob rugged and basically ran off with whatever funds there were, and then Update Authority and all the rest of it, and then leaving us with what we had to survive all that, and then to have a successful ordinals mint, and then to have a successful mint and a successful batch mint on top of that. Like, these things, man, it's been a shit ton of work, like more work than I ever imagined would go into a project. But every time I just get a little message or a little note or a little comment that someone's like, dude, I love this piece, or, I really appreciate the fact that you guys are doing things on the up and up, and not trying to fool people and fake people into, like jumping on some, BS, some hype and BS, right? Like, every time that happens, man, it makes like every sleepless night, every bit of anxiety around, is it set up right? Is it going to work? You know, it just makes it all worth it, man. And so, like, for me, that's the juice. Like, it really is. Like, it's so cool to just be a part of something bigger than me, connecting with you, connecting with all the bosses and the good people. And, hopefully we continue to grow that into, to step into more community. And as we do that, I'm looking for the bosses to really lead and really honor the IP and really honor each other. One of the things that we did recently was, when Ben left the project, he floored all his pieces and basically destroyed everyone's, sort of disrespected everyone's IP. So this past week, I went through and bought out all of Ben's pieces, and cleaned up the floor, so that we're not showing like this disrespect to the art. And like, bosses who've helped me do that, I know bosses picked up a piece here and there, like that type of stuff goes a long way, and it just shows a lot of honor and respect for the work that goes into what we're doing here. And so thank you for everyone who's participated so far. And we're absolutely 100% committed to fulfilling every single aspect of what we put forth. And like Alex was saying, the last piece of that initial set of commitments that we made is the bosses with the face. So we're really looking forward to putting those together. And I have a couple of comic artists actually here in Phoenix that I'm going to be hitting up. So should be good times. And yeah, I'm stoked for today. I hope everybody gets some really cool pieces. I'm definitely going to be minting hard. I want to get some of the new traits in my own little wallet here.
Yeah, man, and it is 5 p.m. UTC now, so I'm dropping the link now. I'm probably getting a couple of mints in immediately because I do want that one of one. So check the Discord if you want, guys. The link is live now. Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm definitely going to be jealous of the person who's getting the one of one. And yeah, shoutouts to you, man. Like the mint page looks great again. I'm sure the whole process is great. So if you guys want to go ahead and mint now, you can do it.
Awesome, man. Pulling it up right now. Yeah, that one of one is pretty sick. It's pretty. I know it's very subtly cool. You know how when sometimes art hits you in the face and it's like, oh shit, that's super cool, and then sometimes it's really subtle and you think about it and it really hits you later. It hits you on a different level. Like that stuff is just super cool to me, man. So yeah, I hope everybody digs it. And yeah, let me just. I'm actually where my computer is being slow for some reason. Okay, there it is. Yeah,
Maybe
so
maybe
headed to
you
Mint.
can maybe you can tell people about like the process because in the beginning we said everyone will get 10 mints at like zero point 0.1 Solana, and we
Mhm.
changed that a little bit. So maybe you can explain that a bit.
Yeah, for sure. The whole idea was to basically bring in people who were committed to long-term growth and gains. And absent doing that, you're left with sort of the hype and horseshit methodology that so many people use, where people are just incentivized to do bad things, for rewards or what have you. And so, I mean, ultimately, we made a bunch of commitments to bosses so that we could make the mints worth their while initially because we had no credibility. Like it was just two random dudes coming together, putting a project together, and we don't have a reputation and we're trying to build and all the rest of this stuff, right? And so, I mean, we put together a package that I thought was like, okay, well, if I was an outsider looking in and I'm looking at this package, like these guys are serious about providing value, A, and B, like the benefits to being a participant are pretty darn strong. And so that's where that whole thing came from, because I'm looking at it as like a real world, sort of business thing. It's kind of hard to mint and talk at the same time, I got to be honest. And so, yeah, so we put together basically the first phase of the project was basically here's what we're going to do for your, basically your sort of limited investment. We try to keep the investment small, but the people committed. So there was a gate to come in using Bitcoin ordinals as sort of a gate. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, now we're going to pay you back using these pieces and we want to get you to token mints. And so basically fulfilling the obligation on 10-cent mints, we've pretty much done that. And then because when we did that, I think Solana was trading for like $20 when we made that commitment. We decided to grandfather in all the bosses at 10-cent mints. So that's not going to go up, right? And so like if you're in and you're holding those bosses or those boss coins, like you're locked in at those discounted mints no matter what we do with the project from this point forward. So that was a commitment that we modified. We did the Solana bosses, got those out to everyone, I believe. I was going through all those tickets trying to close out old stuff today. Pretty sure they're all out for the most part. And then the last commitment is to get a boss with an actual face. And so working through that artwork is going to be the next big piece before we go into token mints. And that'll put us at 700 pieces, which basically only leaves us about three um, batch mints in this era of artwork. And we'll talk about eras in a minute, but yeah, so that's basically the overview of those commitments that were put forth. And we've honored every single one. The only one remaining is the faced artwork. So that's what's coming. And that's I think I'm trying to remember if I answered your question. I'm trying to mint and talk at the same time. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually pretty happy that I got some time to mint pieces. How many of the new trades do we have? Like I got one. I'm very happy with it. How many with the new trade do we have?
What was the with the new head trait? There's only
Ye-
7 in the deck with the new head
Only
trait.
seven. Man,
Only
so
7. You got
so
one? You got
yeah,
one already?
I got one already. Yeah, like the second one I minted.
I'm jealous. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I still am trying to get a mint to go through here. Give me 2 seconds. Yeah, yeah, so there's seven, and then there's an eyewear trait. And I think I forget the penetration of the new eyewear trait, but it's pretty cool. You guys will notice it for sure. It kind of almost looks like goggles, like these hexagonal or octagonal like frames. It's really pretty cool. And then the one of one, it will basically it'll be the only one in the deck sporting a microphone. So like we're definitely doing this homage to Sinatra. So there's a lot of little cool, little kitschy, little like little ties back to certain things that are related to like early mafia, early Italian or American Italian culture, and that Sinatra piece is definitely one of them. So yeah, hopefully everybody enjoys it.
Yeah, definitely, man. I just saw like at the boss table, Yvette. I think she's listening as well. She thought she wasn't able to mint, so you just have to click on the boss coin. She seems like she figured it out for just for the other people. You have to click on your boss coin, and you will be able to mint. Yeah, and 6 minutes into the mint, 30 pieces are gone, and yeah,
I'm just
let's
now,
see.
yeah,
What,
I'm just now doing my first mint, so I'm about to mint like 10 pieces right now. Let's see here.
I'm in case you get the one of one, I'm willing to trade, man.
Not gonna happen, man. Not gonna happen. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I've never gotten like a sign piece on the artist incubator. I've never gotten a one of one. I feel like it's my time.
You do, man. You definitely do, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I am I think I've minted one of the I well, I take that back. I think I minted one of the signed pieces one time, and then I wanted to say I got a one of one, but I think that's not true. Actually, I think it was Chris that got the one of one. So yeah, I'm 0 for 6 now on one of ones. We'll see if today I can, right the ship. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. So if any of you guys gets the one of one, we already mentioned it has a microphone trait. So just share it in the Discord. I want to hear
Yeah.
people's opinion on that. Let's see. Maybe I can already share the new trait here.
So you minted the new head trait, you said?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Okay, sweet. Sweet. Very cool. Which one did you get? Are you posting it right now?
Yeah, I'm
Let's
posting
see.
it now so people can see it.
Oh,
Um,
sweet. Very cool.
the little summer trait. It's actually funny
Fantastic.
because I already felt like, let's skip crypto talk for today because, whenever I check markets, I see red and red and red. And now I have the feeling that, the crypto space now is Goodfellas is minting today, so they try to make Solana as cheap as possible for the bosses.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it, dude. But yeah, for sure. Like anytime these drops are happening, man, I'm having fun picking up some extra tokens, definitely. But yeah, I mean, the markets have been nuts. They're going to be sideways probably for the next few months. So it's a good time to accumulate pieces. And then remember, on average, 1 year after the Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin itself is generally up 300 to 500%. And so right now, you really want to be acquiring as much as possible. Like, I mean, I've even borrowed money at 0% interest to purchase more Bitcoin because I'm going to pay it off with future Bitcoin. So like, the assuming the charts hold true, I mean, everybody's going to be doing quite well who's paying attention in those marketplaces because the halving cycle's real, and I think it's going to get less, sort of less pronounced as we go forward. But this is probably like the last big one because the next one is going to drop the supply only by like 1.75 Bitcoin or something like that. So this is going to be the last big, huge supply shock to the chain. So I think people who are acquiring, Bitcoin and then of course like the major alts like your ETHs and your Solanas, you're going to have your ETFs and these tokens are going to follow. I mean, I can easily see Solana going to 500, maybe 1,000. We'll see what happens with that. The problem with Solana is there's no limit to the supply, really. So, at the end of the day, we have to just kind of see where the marketplace goes. But I mean, the alts are going to follow Bitcoin. They always do. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in terms of crypto, you see that Bitcoin is basically like holding its price like the best compared to altcoins. I've seen, especially like mid to low caps going down for like 30, 40, 50%. I actually just read from some technical analysis that he said like 65K is basically the last line of defense. So let's see if we break through and go much more like down, or if it holds the support.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of tension in the market this week just because the Fed meeting was going on. Like we had the Fed meeting on like the 11th and the 12th, and they like to manipulate interest rates. So, I think really that's all that's going on right now with the fear in the marketplace this week because people had positioned themselves thinking, I think they were going to cut rates a little bit more, and then they decided not to. And then, of course, with it being an election year, politicians hate for the economy to look bad, so they really kind of have to cut. But the inflation's so bad, they can't really cut, so they just didn't do anything. And so the market was kind of like, "What are you guys doing?" And I think people who had positioned themselves for a rate cut were a little bit disappointed, but it's part of it. It's part of the fun. It creates more opportunity for those of us who are paying attention. And if that's what it takes, then so be it. I mean, I think right now in the crypto sphere, I mean, we're still, I mean, so very early. I mean, at the end of the day, like you just gotta kind of sit back and just, I guess, be grateful for where we're at, right? Like, I mean, there's so much gratitude for where we're at. I mean, there's so many people in the average people on the street who don't know anything about the crypto world or NFTs or what's coming, and unfortunately, they're missing out a lot of opportunity. So, and it's an opportunity for us and our project to continue to educate and bring new people in. So hopefully we can continue to do so and enjoy that process.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think inflation data was actually even pretty good for a little, stock markets and crypto and everything. You saw a little spike up, and then it went down again. But to me, it all feels like, like a shakeout still. Market makers do not want people to believe in crypto and want to panic sell and everything. But I'm chilled. I think you guys should be chilled as well. Just hold your backs and you should be good. I think in 1 year from now we are seeing completely different prices.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, 1 year from now, if the halving cycle holds and the 300 to 500% thing holds, I mean, that puts Bitcoin at close to 300 Gs. I mean, Sol, ETH, like all the major tokens are going to be following suit. The meme tokens are all going to go to zero, and we'll see actually like a lot of interest in long-term value plays. But yeah, I mean, the market still has to learn what that looks like. And we kind of talked about this on the podcast on Monday, right? Like when people are doing rampant speculation, that's not a good thing. It tells you that they don't have options. They don't feel like they have options. And if someone doesn't feel like they have options, and they're throwing their money away, that's kind of really where my heart is right now because I see so many people like losing in the meme coin market, but thinking that, if they just keep losing, that ultimately they're going to win. But the truth is, like, whether you're in the shitcoin casino or you're in a real casino, like, if you keep gambling, you're going to lose. Like, the longer you're in that space, the more you're going to lose. And unfortunately, the mentality is not such that people can sort of wrap their mind around it because human psychology hasn't changed for thousands of years, and the psychology of missing out is so powerful, especially for, I think, younger people who are struggling. But yeah, I mean, we have an opportunity here to stand out, to educate, as we continue to grow the Mint Mob podcast, continue to move into video, and then ultimately get education pieces out, and then the paid ads and direct response that we've talked about doing. I mean, we have an opportunity to really educate and help people. So I think that's one of the things that I'm most looking forward to as we continue to grow. And, I just want to see people do really well. Yeah, so I'm stoked for that.
Yeah, definitely. Just a little update on the mint. So 50% is gone. I'll go in a couple of minutes again to mint 2 or 3 more pieces. And yeah, I couldn't just agree with to what you said regarding the crypto space. I mean, it's actually so obvious because the cycle has been always the same. So the sideways movement we have like after the halving has always been the same. We know that we'll have a couple of months sideways movement. There are ups, there are downs, and ultimately we go up. So I don't know why people still panic, but as you mentioned, it's part of their psychology. And regarding the meme coins, of course, I mean, people are losing thousands of dollars, but they feel like, they just have to have that one lucky hit that brings them thousands of, or maybe even six figures. I don't know, because you read about that all the time on X, and people feel like I have to get that as well one time. I just have to keep trying. It's like playing the lottery, and people just feel like I need to hit the right coin once, and then I'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that, right? Like, I mean, I mean, if you hit the right coin, you do only need to hit it once, right? And so that's the game you're playing, right? It's like pulling the one-armed bandit, man. It's like give me the three cherries, right? Or the three lemons or whatever. It's you keep yanking the lever until, you get that little that mental payoff. But yeah, it's interesting, man. It's kind of fun to see. I think right now, like we're still in that space where it's have fun and like get yourself positioned. Like today's mint, I'm having fun with it. The markets are down. I don't care because I'm not selling anyway. I'm in acquisition mode, like from now until the next probably 2 or 3 years. And then, I'll start thinking about selling. But right now, it's all about building a position, in quality NFT projects, in quality tokens, like the Solanas and the ETHs and the Bitcoins and stuff like that. I mean, so as far as that goes, like I think people, if we just realize how early we are and just have fun with it for now, like gamble what you're willing to lose, play around, have a good time, find the good artwork. Like so much great art is coming out, so many opportunities are being built, technologies are being built. Just celebrate it, man. Have fun with it, and let the chips fall where they may. Oh yeah, I see a vet's on here. She had an acknowledgement on Exchange Art, so kudos on that. Like she's been doing a lot of work, putting in the time, putting in the effort, and like the last couple pieces that she put out, like I was looking at the colorations, like the colorations on some of the abstract pieces that she was doing really match um, our sort of collection colorations. So I'm hoping that we can collab on a background piece or maybe do some sort of commission piece on that because those colors really bring out some of the stuff inside our collection. Yeah, and just continue to expand and grow and have fun with it, So those are the types of things that I'm really looking forward to, like building, more relationships with good people, doing awesome things in the space, like where a space has traditionally had a negative reputation, just taking on um, sort of the status quo and building a quality reputation over time. I mean, these are the things right now that I think matter. They're not sexy, like I'm not hiring, some crazy influencer to put out lies and to hype up the project. I'm looking for people who understand that. And so as we grow and continue to bring those folks in, when the market is more solid and people understand it better, the foundation will be so solid that we can't help but continue to build good things on top of it, right? I feel like one of the reasons NFT projects fail is because they build on such shaky ground, and it's all hype or it's all, it's not really fully formed. Like the idea isn't really fully formed, and then you have people who don't really know how to execute on top of that, or they fall prey to the status game. They're like, oh, I didn't min out my collection, as if that's a good metric. Well, let's say you did min out your collection, but half of it went to your team and the other half went to people who don't care. So who cares if you minted down your collection, right? Like the goal should be to get, like we say, high quality art in the hands of high quality holders, or else you're just screwing yourself. So it's really weird space and it's the Wild West. And so that's why I say, man, have fun with it. And it's a lot of work. I don't think anyone understands like the work that goes into putting in an NFT collection. And then like we're doing everything the hard way in terms of mints, like doing one batch mint at a time. But ultimately, I'd rather have the foundation than not. And so that's kind of where my head is when I think about the market as a whole. And I'm really proud of what we've done so far. I'm really proud of the people that we brought in, and I want to do right by them, right? Like that's my ultimate goal. So yeah, so we'll see where it goes. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Uh, I actually do agree as usually. What I just wanted to do was I wanted to dive in a little bit into the ranks because I was just checking the ranks I got. I got one capo, so I'm happy with that. I'm still missing a consigli. Man, that word is so hard for me. We have to rename it consigliere. Um, Maybe you can explain again how many of these are in each batch.
Yeah, so for the family structure, right? Like we talked about, what are the gates that would be necessary for someone to really participate on a business level, right? So like if we were looking in the real world and let's say I had a company or you had a company or, you know, I don't know, let's see STC has a company, whatever. Like, if STC is building a company and there's all this investment going into that company, then if I am wanting to participate on a higher level, then I'm going to have to show up with something. Like, I'm going to have to show up with relationships. I'm going to have to show up with skills. I'm going to show up with cash. And I'm going to have to like contribute in some way, right? Or else STC is going to be like, get the fuck out of here. You're not bringing nothing to the table, kind of a thing, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, the families are basically like another gate. It's like, okay, are you committed to building a family, even at these low mint rates? And then when we go into the business side of things, like if we have the exchange live or if we've got a marketplace live and we've got revenues to share, like who do you want to share those revenues with? Do you want to share them with just anybody? Or do you want to share those revenues with people who are committed and involved, right? And so for me, the answer is very, very simple. I want to share with people who are invested, right? Like I want to share with people who care. I want to share it with people who've been here for the journey and who have, backed the project. And that just makes sense to me, right? So the idea behind the family is it's 100 pieces. I guess technically it would be 101 if you count the boss. Um, so like you've got your boss, but then inside each batch of 100, what you have is you've got an underboss, which is kind of like the second in command. You've got a consigliere, which is the word that Alex is having trouble with. I guess is that just hard to say because it's because you're a native German speaker, or hard to say for another reason?
I'm not sure, man, and maybe we have to ask other people as well. But yeah, I'll practice.
No, dude, your English is amazing. But yeah, so the underboss is kind of like the number two. The consigliere is kind of like like a counselor to those two, and then under that you've got five capos or capos, depending on your pronunciation, and they kind of like run the teams, right? So on the streets you'll have soldiers and associates, and so the capos are kind of like captains. They run those, and then in addition to those ranks, you've got a one of one, and then you've got a hitman. And so basically that constitutes an entire family. Those 100 pieces from the boss all the way through to underboss, consigliere, hitman, one of one, five capos, and the rest of the family is like soldiers and associates, right? And so that's basically how it's structured. And the way that we've done this drop is on every time we've dropped 100 pieces, we've dropped an entire family, you know? And so everybody has an opportunity to snap up enough pieces to build their families. And then, of course, when we get to, ultimately where the project starts to culminate in terms of like working with more artists and, having the token mints and then having, an artwork exchange or basically like an artwork gallery or marketplace, I would say more so than an exchange because we want to, again, target a different demographic. Then those are the people who we're going to look to first for like, hey, do you want to participate on the business end, right? So that's kind of the idea behind families. And we're coming up, like I said, once the face art is done, we'll be at 700 pieces, which leaves us really only 3 minutes before we hit the 1,000. And then we go into eras. And so I don't know, maybe if you want to talk a little bit about eras, we can do that as well. You want to give a little overview?
Yeah, definitely. So we had the idea to create or to yeah create different eras to like through the whole collection of 10,000, and where we had the idea to have 1,000 pieces, and every batch of 1,000 pieces has its own era. And we have had a couple of ideas. Maybe we can even share it with the community, have some votings or something. But for example, we had that idea to have a whole era of just black and white fellas. And yeah, as I said, that brings a lot of diversity to the collection, and I think it makes it more fun. And when we had that call about that, I'm not sure if we talked about that on the podcast or in private, but there are like endless possibilities to do so. And yeah, I feel like we can definitely let the community participate and bring in some ideas, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, like, the eras thing is kind of cool. I think from a standpoint of a holder, like if I'm looking at different collections, a lot of times people I think jump from collection to collection because you develop an affinity for a particular style of art, and then okay, so now you minted your pieces in this particular collection, and so now you're kind of stuck with that art. But then if you're a collector or an artist, like you really, well, I guess I should speak for myself. Like if I'm a collector or an artist, I know what I like, and I also know that if I look at something long enough, that it sort of loses its, I guess you'd say, its pizzazz. Like, it's like the first time you're exposed to a really cool idea, it hits you and it's like, oh, that's a really cool idea. And then you hear it again, it's like, well, it's not so cool today. It was cool yesterday. you know, and you just kind of go through like the exposure, like the number of exposures that you have sort of determines your excitement level, which is one of the reasons that FOMO works in NFT markets, right? Because like, you get exposed to an idea, you get exposed, someone's going to expose you to this new technology, this new price, new, right? Like the human mind is always looking for new. And so these exposures, like once you've seen them enough, they start to lose their sort of special nature in your mind. And so I think one of the ways to, continue to build onto a collection is kind of like what DeGods did with Seasons. They had different versions of their artwork, but rather than doing seasons of the same pieces where you just sort of modify the same piece, you actually update all of the pieces to a different style. So like maybe it's like 1940s war poster style from 1000 to 2000, or maybe it's like film noir from 3000 to 4000, or whatever that particular style is, like art deco style from like 6000 to 7000, whatever that particular style is. Line art, black and whites, mixed media, which is one of my favorites, which is one of the reasons I love this artwork, because it has this sort of appearance of mixed media. There's obvious, illustrative aspects to it, but then there's other aspects where you have to look really, really closely to see, is that a picture or is that an image? Because there's so much texture and detail inside the pieces and inside, like the hair, for example, or inside the suits. Like if you look really close and you blow the pieces up, you'll see textures that have been added. And like these are the things that a lot of collections just simply don't have. And I think this is one of the reasons that so many people fell in love with the art. And it's definitely one of the reasons that I, own 200 pieces from the original collection, right? And cried when I had to burn them all. So, at the end of the day, I feel like this is this sort of like creation aspect is, it's got to like make humans feel good again and again and again and again. And you're not going to be able to do that if you keep, showing a human the same thing over and over and over again, right? So there's the beauty of the sort of generative art, which in this particular batch here, only about 50 of the pieces were generative. All the other pieces I basically hand built to make sure that colors and backgrounds and, sort of the feel of the pieces matched. Um, and then, the only option that remains is, okay, you keep doing that, or you start incorporating different styles to really like highlight the best aspects of what you've done in maybe another artist's style, or another, using another artist's eye. And I feel like that's one of those things that, again, we can do that no one else has done yet. And so it's going to be interesting to see. Like I really have an affinity to that early turn of the century, like really bright colored art. So I'd love to see that come to fruition. I'm excited to work with artists who can, bring that to life and then contribute to that. But, overall, it's just about, how can I continue to provide value and create quality for the people in my circle and the people in this family, right? Like, because to me, that's how I'm looking at it. Like, I never want to sit back on my laurels and be like, oh, yeah, well, I did what I could and, get that silly, announcement that so many projects come up with. Well, I don't feel it anymore, or we spent all $1 million that we that we got, allocated to us, like all these different excuses that people come up with to quit. Like, I feel like these challenges are one of the things that keep, me excited about showing up and doing the things on all the days when it's so difficult, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling, but hopefully some of those thoughts, make a little bit of sense.
Yeah, definitely. What might be interesting for maybe even OG holders of Art of Mob is that we have the artist Francis, whose artist name is F. Point Arts, and when he created the art, he was actually not the only one working on it. There are a couple of traits that other artists created, and that led to some kind of lack of quality sometimes. And I know that you had to redo some of the artwork, and yeah, maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, when I'm going through collections, I'm looking for flaws. I mean, especially when you have really clean, sort of, what's the word? Like really clean, clear, crisp artwork. I mean, most illustrative art is that way. But then when you throw in textures, like our collection has so many different textures, whether it's the jackets or, like I said, like the hair or the clothing or what have you, the hats. Like when you're looking at those pieces, the the if there are flaws in those pieces, the textures actually kind of hide it. And so when I'm going through the layers and I'm looking at the different pieces of art, I could see flaws like where people had just left like random line work undone, or in the case of Francois. I think he knew initially the Art of Mob people were going to screw him, so he sort of backed off, and they brought some other people in. At least that's the intent, the impression that I get. But if you look at like the old hand trait or like the old handcuff trait, you can easily see that's not his artwork, right? And so like I reached out to him and I had him do a new handcuff trait, and it looks completely different from the one that's in the original collection, right? So like going back and getting with Francois, for example, and having him go through and like do everything in his style would be like an era. Like we could have the Francois era where everything is like top to bottom his style, clean artwork, no stray lines. Every single layer gets touched. Everything is super high quality. And, of course, this is probably mainly just my OCD, you know but I just love it when people focus heavily on the details, because to me that is an indication that of care and of like quality. Like when someone takes the time to get every little thing that you're not going to see to like a really high degree of quality and care. It's like the mint page. Like you're like, dude, the mint page looks pretty cool. I'm like, awesome. Like Truffle puts out a default mint page. I could have just said, hey, here, default mint page, go. Here's the link. But no, I took time to find the graphics, to do artwork, like even like the mint graphic. Like I took the time to do the little details that no one really cares about, because I want everything to be of high quality, and I want everyone to have an experience, not just get something, if that makes sense. And so, I mean, from that aspect, like bringing everything of sort of, I guess you would say, like average attention to detail to above average to good to excellent, like that is something that really inspires me, and that's something that I really love when I see in other people. Like back in the day, I was in a band. Like I was in a band in college. We used to travel around. I played bass and sang harmonies. And one of the guys that I used to play with at like an old church band, this guy was like a keyboardist from like the 70s, like he's one of these dudes who'd been playing all the music for all the years. And like watching him play keyboards, man, it's like, dude, it's like, you know, it's like watching freaking, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like watching art in motion, because when he would start playing a tune, like this really funky, like if you think like 70s funk, like Doobie Brothers type stuff, like he would just rattle this stuff off like it was nothing. And I would sit there in just amazement and watch him play, because he was so into it and like he was so on point with every little thing that he did. Like this guy could play with anyone in the world, right? Like I literally saw someone get up in front of a crowd one day and start singing a random song that they had written that day on the spot, right? And this guy, his name was Tracy. He was like, you could see him in the background, like his mind started working, and then he was like touching the keys. He was like trying to find the key that they were singing in, right? And then, before you know it, like 30, 45 seconds later, like into the tune, like he's already found the chords for the song that they just wrote that he's never heard before, and now he's playing it. And I'm just sitting here going like, damn, it's just like some people are so good at shit that like all you can do is just smile when you see them do it. It's like, wow, like it's just literally that good, right? So when I see people who care that much and like put that much energy and effort into what they do, dude, I love it, man. I can't get enough of it. And so that's where I want to live in terms of what I want to create, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always been about that. I mean, I see all the work you put into the mint pages and, make the whole mint process exciting and fun for people. And I feel like that needs to be like the bar we set, especially that needs you need to keep that in the future. I just went through the Discord. I saw a lot of people already sharing the pieces they minted. Guest user got some nice pieces. Below got some nice pieces. I see there are 40 left now, so it looks like the one of one is still in the deck, which makes me definitely want to mint a little more. Do you have minted a great piece already, like a special one?
Sorry, dude, my phone keeps going black. Yeah, I got one of the new head traits, so I'm stoked for that. Yeah, for sure. It's the white suit with the red undershirt, and it's one of my favorite pieces. So I'm so stoked that I got that piece, dude.
Yeah, I believe that. I love the white suit. So again, if you're willing to trade, but yeah, if anybody got the one of one, please share it. I really want to see it in the hands of a good collector. Yeah, but maybe we should dive into the giveaway as well. I had that posting about it. Let me just open it real quick. We mentioned already a couple months ago that we are giving away a Solana Saga phone, and as most of you guys know, this Saga phone, which how much was it? I think around $500. But usually, if you get the phone, you get a lot of airdrops from different coins, and usually it pays for itself. So besides that phone, you should also get a lot of airdrops. And we decided to extend that giveaway and drop some more prices as well, so some USDC and AU. And as I've mentioned, I made that tier list, and with the involvement in the project, the more NFTs you have, the higher are your chances to win one of these prizes. And we wanted to make sure that everyone who holds a Goodfella NFT has a chance. And I think it's yeah, it makes sense to give people who have more pieces like a bigger probability to win something. So the God tier would probably be like having a full family plus every AI piece, which equals like 300 extra entries. And as I mentioned, like the Solana phone is set to drop in the first half of 2025. There is not a date released yet, but we will probably have a deadline around New Year's. So yeah, we will collect wallets and have that raffle. So please make sure you have every piece in one wallet. And yeah, then we will have the giveaway, and we hope to make some people happy. And I think this is it for the Goodfellas project today. Do we have any other topics?
Oh man, there's all kinds of topics. What do you want to dive into? No, but yeah, and I appreciate you putting that together. We purchased that phone quite a while ago, and then I think basically we kind of almost forgot about it. And then I forget who reminded us, but one of the bosses reminded us, like, "Hey, dude, like, what's going on with the with the Solana phone?" And we hadn't even put together all of the criteria yet. So I appreciate you doing that this past week. That definitely needed to get done. And yeah, stoked to get the phone into the hands of some awesome person out there in the world. But yeah, like in terms of the project itself, I mean, we've kind of covered a lot of the high points. And we've started talking about some of the different things that are coming down the pike in terms of eras and in terms of artwork, in terms of fulfillment. But one of the other things that we haven't mentioned yet is like when we're bringing on other collections and other pieces, like Soul Rockers, for example, we want these guys to also be feel like they're part of the community. And so one of the things that I'm working on right now behind the scenes is, like when you're staking and unstaking, that bears a fee. And so one of the things I want to be able to do is allow them to earn AU without having to have them stake or unstake pieces, because obviously that just takes and takes and takes, in terms of transaction fees, and it's really unnecessary. So I'm working with Floppy Labs right now to shift the token over without having to set up a new environment. So I know a couple of the Soul Rocker guys asked me about that. And again, it's just one of those things, like rather than, kind of half-ass doing it where, oh yeah, just feel free to unstake and you've got like 50, 100 pieces or whatever. It's going to cost you $100 to unstake everything. It's like, no, let's see if we can find a workaround. So that's one of the things we're working on right now. And hopefully we can get that live here in the very near future. Just waiting to hear back from Floppy on what needs to happen on that. And I know a couple bosses have already picked up some Soul Rockers as well, and we've talked about tokenizing different things. So I'll keep everybody posted on that. But hopefully we can do that sort of thing. And again, like keeping in mind, like better ways to do things so that, people aren't wasting soul or wasting fees, this and that and the other, and on this, that, and the other thing, but rather, keeping more of that value and keeping more of those experiences at a higher level. So just like little things like that, right? Like, so that's in the works. I'll get that announced as soon as I hear back from Floppy. I think that's the only other big thing for like the project right now. Obviously, the next big thing tech wise is going to be token mints, and unfortunately, with Metaplex, who owns Truffle, who basically puts out this platform that we mint on. Like, unfortunately, like they don't want to deal with like tokens from a particular project, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Like the main one is just legality. Like they don't want to have to worry about whether or not someone's going to screw someone, or this exchange or that exchange is moving money across a jurisdiction that they shouldn't. Again, just part of the maturing of the market. So what that means is we have to build our own token minting technology. And so that's one of the things that I'm working on right now is building out that technology. And so for those of you guys who have your pieces, whether they're Soul Rockers, whether they're 21s, whether they're, AI pieces or OG pieces, like I want you guys to be able to earn the AU. And then when it comes to future mints and eras and all this kind of thing, like you'll have the ability to mint whatever you want to mint, but you also have the ability to have the token mints running so you can basically earn your money back. Like, so if there's pieces that you mint out that you don't necessarily want to keep or add to your collection or want to trade around, this kind of gets back to that idea of what does an investment look like? An investment looks like something that you can pull your money back out and allow your initial dollars to continue to earn. And so that's kind of where that's at. So that's the next big piece that's going to be coming out. And so I'm stoked to see how that ultimately shakes out, because I would love to have the technology at a place where it's very good, like up to like the Truffle level or the Metaplex level. And of course, a lot of it will be built on their technology. But having those token mints, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And it opens up a lot of doors too for when we tokenize things. Um, and I think we've mentioned this before, but we've never really dived. Is it dived or dove? Somebody tell me. Is it dived or dove? We've never really dived into or dove into the uh, the ramifications of what that looks like. Or you got the answer, man? Is it dived or dove? Dived, dove.
I'm not the right person to ask that.
I don't know. I think your English is probably better than mine. But imagine having like concurrent mints that are always going. And I think this is what's going to ultimately happen in the marketplace. You start to see this on news on crypto news sites, for example. Like if you go to, I don't know if it's CoinMarketCap or no, it's not CoinMarketCap. It's one of the coin news websites where when they put out an article, they put the article out and you can actually mint a copy of the article live on the page. And the mint just stays open for ever how many editions they want to sell, right? So if you think about tokenizing music or tokenizing a piece of artwork, this idea of, oh, we've got to mint it out in 3 minutes is going to go away, because ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to have lots and lots of little open mints all the time. And then as people discover those mint pages or discover these products that they want to pick up, they'll mint at will rather than minting on a certain date or minting at a certain time or being, sort of gated by time. And we can do the same thing with artwork. We could do the same thing with music. We could do the same thing with like memberships. Again, like building out a tokenization business and IP rights business. These are all things that we have to consider. And so with the token mints and with our own mint technology or mint pages, we'll ultimately have the situation where when someone wants to mint from the token, hey, that page is open, go mint, whenever you feel like it or whenever you've earned enough. And then there'll also be pages that are open in Sol. So if you don't have your AU, you can go mint in your Sol. Let's say you want to get another piece from a particular era, like that mint will just be open, right? And in that way, we can continue to invite people in and bring people in and not necessarily have to have them wait for certain things or to jump through certain hoops before they can get involved. And so that's one of those things that I think a lot of people really haven't thought much about yet, but I think is definitely coming. So yeah, I mean, lots of exciting stuff, man. I mean, at the end of the day, when I'm looking at where we are versus what's possible, I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface. I think when I look at like applications and utilities across technologies right now, like probably one of the best applications right now is the Phantom wallet, to be quite honest with you. The Xverse wallet is very, very good, but Phantom has done an amazing job of incorporating multiple chains. They're super user friendly. It's a beautiful interface. And I think as we continue to go forward with mint pages and apps and utilities and tokenization, the end user wants like the Apple experience, where they don't have to know anything. Their phone has no buttons or one button and it does everything, right? It's just a simple, stupid device versus like the Android user who wants to know how to do everything and wants to write code and figure everything out, right? I think once we get to the place where projects understand that the user experience is going to directly impact like their ability to provide value to the marketplace, that's kind of when you start getting to this place where you have more adoption. And you see this with the ETFs because the ETFs, made it possible for the average person to own crypto without having to have a wallet. And that's really what people want. So if you can give them an experience that is sort of app based, where they're not really thinking in terms of wallets and addresses and, all these sort of random crypto terms, then that's when you start to get, I think really cool results and really cool things happening in the marketplace.
Yeah, definitely, man. I just want to take a moment and congratulate STC to her pieces because she actually got two bosses with the new eyewear trade. So congratulations to that. And yeah, what I wanted to say is you talked about the Sol Rockers and trying to make them stakeable for AU. And I've seen that, a couple of guys bought some of these pieces, and they are very, very cheap right now, and I think around $5. And once it comes to token mints, these pieces will be very valuable, especially when you get AU and everything. I think people sometimes forget how much artwork and collections we still have, like in the back, ready to be minted. And we keep acquiring collections, and we are trying to get like the best art in our hands, and yeah, giving them to dedicated collectors, right?
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. It's, when you're minting in small batches and really focused on, like putting quality artwork in the hands of people. I mean, the focus isn't so much on like the quantity of the artwork, but the quality of the experience and the quality of the holder. I mean, I forget that too. Like we're sitting on, basically 9,000 plus more OG pieces if we fulfill the 10K initial goal. And then we have the 10,000 ladies. We've got 7,000+ soul rockers. We've got another collection that we haven't even basically announced yet. And excuse me. And so all of these things are adding up to a tremendous base that when we open up the gallery, like the best of these pieces can live in these galleries. And then, of course, other people and other holders can come in and start participating in these galleries, and have it be like a true gallery experience, not like, I mean, like I love all the artwork exchanges, but they're not like gallery experiences. They're not like you're getting hand signed one of ones or even prints. It's just like on some level it's just kind of like lowest common denominator stuff where it's like, okay, well, we have the know-how to throw together a marketplace, and we're going to scrape 2 or 3% off of every transaction, and that's going to be how we make money. And we don't really care what the artwork looks like or how the what the artist's experience is. We just want to make sure that it works and that we're going to scrape our 2 or 3%, right? It's the whole idea of, during the gold rush, the people who made the most money were basically selling tools to the miners, but they weren't actual miners themselves. The exchanges are kind of the same way. The artwork exchanges are kind of the same way. They don't really care about the art. They just care about selling you the tools so that you can participate in the art. And then you have to realize, like, anytime you're not paying to be part of a service, you are the product. And so these exchanges are basically, in some cases, taking on the IP of the artist, in some cases, charging exorbitant fees. But in other cases, they're just not very involved. They're there to support the tech, and that's about it. Whereas when you're thinking in terms of high quality art and galleries, you're thinking in terms of curation. You're thinking in terms of, okay, is this good enough to be in my gallery in the first place? Do I want to associate my reputation with this particular piece? And so these are the types of things that I think are, and the types of questions that really need to be asked if artwork is the focus, and separating that from like the business aspect of it. You need both, but there has to be a balance. And I feel like where relationships are concerned, win-win relationships are the only ones that matter. So if I am working with an artist, I want them to win. If I'm putting them on my marketplace, I want them to win. Yeah, I need to make some money on the transactions, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, am I curating it? Am I bringing in high quality art? Am I making sure that if they're on my platform, that they're associated with, knowing, like, the building this reputation that if you're here, you're part of something special. And in most cases, it's just like, anybody and everybody can just jump on here and sell their shit. And it kind of makes it like, almost like MLM, right? Like low barrier to entry is great, but it also means it brings in everyone. And so just like when we token gate the bosses and separate them out, we're not looking for everyone. We're looking for the people who care the most and the people who are most committed. And that's really where I see the downfall in a lot of those marketplaces. So, um, and obviously we're going to evolve, and we'll see where that goes. But we're definitely not there yet, and there's lots of room for improvement, I would say. How about you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you just mentioned that we also have like a saved collection that we haven't even announced yet. If you guys are curious, you can actually go to the Goodfellas NFT website, and you can get an idea of what it is. I know the pictures are blurred, but yeah, you can definitely check it out. One thing I wanted to ask is that I saw that you've been on Spaces with Maria. Unfortunately, the space wasn't recorded, but maybe you can talk a little bit about what you did there.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of, I talk a lot about relationship building, and I talk a lot about, looking for, high quality holders and that sort of thing. And I mean, I'm doing my best to put my money where my mouth is, right? Like um, I want to spend the time required to build reputation in the marketplace such that it makes sense for you know for quality relationships to exist in the world of art or in the world of NFTs. And then, of course, part of my role is to expound upon what we're doing here. And so a lot of times I go into these spaces, and I find there's a lot of ignorance around IP rights. I find there's a lot of ignorance around like documenting what you want from other people. taking care of people, creating win-win relationships. Most relationships I find in the space are win-lose or lose-win, meaning someone's taking advantage of someone or either someone's playing the martyr. And usually what I find is the artists are playing the martyr, like they're selling themselves short in the marketplace. And throw up a reaction if you guys have seen this before. I'd be curious to know your opinions, even if you don't want to talk. And if you want to talk, let me know. We'll throw the microphone your way. Obviously, this isn't just the Jason and Alex show, but we kind of jumped into this thing. But if you've seen it, like where artists sort of subjugate themselves or sort of sacrifice what they want or sacrifice getting something in exchange for what they really want, like they're selling themselves short, they're martyring themselves. Like this is just a symptom of there being way more supply than demand. And so we talk a little bit about how you change that. We talk about status. We talk about, what really moves the market. We talk about all these different concepts that people can sort of grasp from a high level, but like, what does it look like in practice? Like if I say to you in practice that I'm not going to just let anyone mint my stuff, and then I show up and then I just let anyone mint my stuff because I want the status of a quote unquote sellout, then I'm a sellout, right? What I have to do is I have to stand in my values and I have to stand firm on what I believe and what I think. And if I don't, then I basically ruin my reputation, not only in the marketplace, but I lose self-esteem. And now the next time something like this floats around, I'm left with this sort of, well, I already, lessened what I wanted before, or always diminished my participation before. So now I'm stuck doing it again. And that type of thing, we talk about this in business world a lot or in the sales world a lot. Like we talk about people selling from their heels, meaning like they're backing up, trying to soft sell you on a thing. And the truth is, like, if you have real value to offer, what you want to do is sell like a motherfucker. Like, if you show up, like, look, this is what I'm doing, you can participate or not. That's a much stronger position, whether you get the deal or not, than selling from your heels and kind of backpedaling and, sort of letting people know that you can be pushed around. And of course, you have to pay your dues in the beginning. There's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, when you're wanting to create something, like you have to stick to your vision, and what that means is that some people are going to be repelled by what it is that you want to do. Like I'm under no preconceived notion that everyone likes me or that everyone likes what I'm doing here. I'm under, no misapprehensions that I'm everyone's cup of tea. But I'm also under the apprehension that I'm someone's cup of tea, right? So it comes back to the idea that good communication and good marketing does two things. It attracts who you want and it repels who you don't. And I think a lot of times in the art world, what I see is people forget the second half, which is it repels who you don't. And so it's like, okay, well, I need to sell my art or whatever it is, and then you see people sort of fall prey to that I need rather than I want. And that's when people make mistakes. It's kind of like that movie. I forget the name of the movie, but it's like a George Clooney thing where he's having an interview with this dude at the corporate office. I think it's J.K. Simmons, who's one of my favorite actors, older actor. And he basically asks him the question, like, what are you doing here? Like, and he's basically doing this sort of, in-house interview. And he's like, how much did you accept, or how much did they pay you to give up on your dream? Right? Because you got this guy and he's working this corporate job, and it's obvious that he doesn't really like the job. And, basically he says something, I forget the number, call it 40,000 or whatever it was. Right. So someone offered him a salary position and he gave up on everything he wanted to create. I think he wanted to be like a chef or a cook. I'm sure I'm getting all this wrong. So fact checkers of the world, fact checkers of the movie world, be sure and, let me know. But, it's just one of those things, like how much is your character and your morality and your value system worth to you? If it's not worth anything to you, that's going to show up in how you interact with other people. And unfortunately, we live in a moment in time where you're supposed to always be nice. And I think people forget that being nice is not being kind. They're very, very different things. And so I think really the biggest, like, to kind of answer your question in one fell swoop, the biggest thing that I see a lack of confidence in self. And I see people selling themselves short. And I see people concerned about whether or not they're going to sell their artwork in the art spaces. And what I do is I try to have that conversation about IP rights and how they can protect themselves. But the bigger thing is I try to get them to see that selling art is not the same thing as creating art. They are two very different skill sets. Okay. And so if you don't learn how to sell, then you're not going to move your art unless and until you've built a reputation that will sell it for you. And that also requires effort. So, at the end of the day, the conversation centers on, are you an artist or are you an entrepreneur slash salesperson? Because selling art, right, is business, whereas creation, no matter what you create, no matter who buys it, no matter what the reason that you created it, is artwork, right? And art is objective. There's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful conversation between Naval and what's this guy's name? It's on my timeline. I'll have to post it. But there's this idea that art is subjective, and the truth is it's not. Like, we have this idea of beauty and order and what that looks like, and we can put forth anything that we like and we can call it art. But at the end of the day, there's something about art that speaks to us, and there's something about art that's beautiful that is objective. And our job is to sort of whittle away the nonsense to get to the truth of what that is. That's really what an artist does. And an artist doesn't care if what they've done sells. An artist doesn't care if what they've done does sell, right? Because the artist has to get the idea out of their head and into the real world. Just like an entrepreneur, right, is getting an idea out of their head and into the world. Just like a stonemason is revealing a statue. Like, all of these different people who do their work to a high degree because they have to bring it from within to without, these people are all artists. The person who's just focused on selling their stuff is not an artist. There's something else. There might be an element of art in it, but selling art in the business of art is not the same thing as creating art. And I challenge anyone who's in the art world to go read Rick Rubin's latest book. He talks about this a lot. The artist doesn't care about the outcome. The artist cares that he or she gets what's inside out. That's the sole goal. And if people like it, so much the better. But if they don't, that's fine too. So I don't know. That's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's more or less what we've talked about at the highest level.
Yeah, man, sounds so interesting. I feel like I'd love to talk about all this with some artists. I'm actually pretty sad that the space is not recorded, but maybe we can have the Maria or Daria on our spaces as well and talk a little bit about that. And I think the movie you just referred to is called Up in the Air, if I'm right. And yeah, love that as well. So, but yeah, as you said, talking about like art and entrepreneurship and wanting to sell art, I feel like with all the conversations I had with artists, there are so many differences between them. You can actually almost sense when someone just wants to sell his stuff. Like when I talk to artists, it felt like they didn't really have a vision of what they want to do. They didn't put in so much, like, you can say, hard almost, because when I talk to Daria, for example, you can see that she's so dedicated about what she does, and she's so, like, she wants everything to be so perfect. And you remember when she created the artist incubator pieces for us, she reworked them because she wasn't satisfied, even though like the art already looked perfect, and yeah, that's what I feel like could be interesting to talk about with artists when we get them on spaces, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always cool to have different perspectives. I mean, we all learn from one another when we basically open up, our minds to different ideas. And I think probably, when we're talking to artists, one of the most valuable things I think that an artist can do is tell you their story. And, I think largely because in a lot of circles, especially in, I guess you would say, like, what would be the right word? Like in modern times, like when I look at X, for example, or Twitter, like, if it's no secret, I told everyone I've gotten on. I didn't get on Twitter or X until, like a year or so ago. And one of the reasons that I was not interested in X is because when I first got here, the anonymity. around who I was talking to, and the smart assery that was going on was just repulsive to me. And so I didn't want to really interact in that way. I wanted to interact with people, who actually cared about what they were putting forth and, had some form of responsibility around what they were saying. And so, in the world of art, I think there is um, a lot of different ways to look at how creation works. But if you're not willing to tell your story, it's going to be harder for you to sell your stuff because your story is what sells, not anything else. And like the sooner that we can realize things like that are, like the sooner you can get to, telling your story and opening up about what something means to you, the more people you can draw in. And this is just something that comes from, I keep talking about the traditional business world or the marketing world. And there's a reason that, a lot of these concepts are universal. It's because they work, because human psychology hasn't really changed for, thousands of years. But when you know someone and you know their story and you know why they've done something, then you're much more apt to have an affinity toward that person. You're much more apt to sort of be drawn into their world and to be, I guess you would say, invested in their world. And if you're not willing to share that, then you're basically eliminating one of the most powerful tools that you could use to sell your stuff. So like when you and I are talking about Goodfellas, for example, the question always comes down to how do we tell the story in a marketplace whose attention span is 3 seconds long and everybody's used to getting screwed, you know? And so it's not an easy thing. It's like, well, how do we figure out the correct way to do that? And so, we don't have all the answers, is the truth. Like, I don't have all the answers. I'm never going to have all the answers. So, what I have to do is I have to put something into the world and I have to risk it not working. I have to be willing to, put everything on the line and look like an idiot. I have to be able to withstand the slings and the arrows. I have to be willing to look at what's going on and say, all right, well, this worked, but that, man, that was horrible. That failed drastically. And I have to be honest with myself about that thing. And so if I'm being honest about my performance so far, I would give myself, like in the Goodfellas communication, I would give myself like a D, maybe a C, because the truth is I still don't know a good way of communicating all of the things, and I'm still working through all of the things, and when we talk, we're still working through all of the things. And so yeah, I mean, I think having these conversations with artists and creators and really figuring out, like hey, what do you stand for? What's your value system? How do you communicate it? These are the things that really matter. And I feel like at the end of the day, the more we can start wrapping our minds around the fact that, we really want to be the people that we're capable of being, and that's really what lights us up. Like when we become the people that we're capable of becoming, that's like the biggest, most amazing feeling ever. And it has nothing to do with external validation, like in the NFT world where it's status based, or the artwork world where a lot of it's status based. It's not based on that. It's based on something real. And when I say that, I mean that like it's meaningful. And so, what is meaningful to you at this point in your life? What is meaningful in terms of what you want to create for your life? Like these are the questions. And how do you communicate that to yourself, right? Like, because every day you wake up, you're selling yourself on something. You're selling yourself on going to work. You're selling yourself on buying a token. You're selling yourself on participating in a project. You're selling yourself on something, right? And so when it comes right down to it, what are those things? And why are those things what they are? So I feel like at this moment in time where there's this tremendous amount of opacity, where people are a little bit more opaque, a little more in danger when they feel like they're expressing themselves due to whatever the political climate happens to be. You can't speak your mind. You can't say this. You can't say that. At the end of the day, like these things are the things that are as an individual we have to overcome and say, here's who I am. And I'm not going to say something different just so that you'll like me. you know and in those artwork spaces, I feel like that's a lot of what's happening. It's like I'm going to say this or I'm going to create that so that you'll like me and you'll buy my stuff, but ultimately that repels everyone, because when you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. And so I feel like that's kind of the moment that we're in. And, like the communication piece is everything. So I feel like if you're an artist or a creator of some sort, like the biggest thing is you got to figure out how to communicate who you are, what you're about, and what that looks like. And, I mean, that's just kind of my 2 cents. I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful words, man. I think these are some very, very intense thoughts everyone should think about. And yeah, nothing I can add actually. Yeah, I think we are good for today. As some people notice, if you guys are Europeans, there's actually some big event coming up starting today. The European Football Cup. For you, Jason, it's soccer, I know. And the first game is kicking off in like half an hour. So I got some company coming over, so I'm unfortunately having to wrap it up in a minute. Do you have some more topics we have to discuss, or are we good?
No, man, I'm good. It's been fun hanging out like it always is on Fridays. I think it looks like we got like only about 20 more pieces. So for those of you guys who want to snag up one of the last couple pieces, feel free. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And just want to send love to everyone. Man, it's been a funny so far. A lot of work, but lots of fun, lots of meaning. And I appreciate everyone being here. And just super grateful for the relationship that Alex and I have built, and I'm looking forward to building deeper relationships with everyone on the call as we continue to advance. So, yeah, that said, man, have fun. Hope you got some awesome pieces, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in the timeline.
Definitely, man. Couldn't agree more. So we have 20 pieces left, 48 minutes to go for bosses. Unfortunately, Christopher seems to have gotten the one of one. Going to check out if he's willing to trade. Most likely not. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening today. Looking forward to next week. And yeah, have a great weekend, everyone. Bye bye.